All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, 7:15. As you know, usual, we're always here on Thursdays. At least we try to be. That will become a lot more consistent, especially as the NFL season approaches. But it's just around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Fans Only Sports Network. I am your host, Chet, and to my right, as always, is my counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how are we doing today on this blessed July 28th?
Well, July 28th, another, was it Thursday? Another
Mm-hmm.
Thursday night with you, Chet. So we're going to have a good one tonight. July's coming to an end, going into August soon. That'll be the hottest month of the year, but one step closer to NFL football, baby.
Absolutely. And as we approach the 2022 season, that means the conclusion of season 2 on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. It means we're moving into our third season as a show here on Fans Only Sports Network. And it's quite surprising not surprising, I should say, but it's one of those things where time flies. Really does.
Has it been that long?
It really has been.
January 2021 we started about 18 months ago.
And it was a short first season.
Short first season because we started NFL playoffs that year. We got right into the thick of things. But glad to be back. Season 3 going to be a good one. We're going to really blow up the show this year. We're going to be making some social medias too. We should have been on that. We have some funny reels, bro. I feel like we have some funny reels, bro.
Yeah, we have a lot to go back in terms of the the library, in terms of looking at everything and kind of going over all the footage and kind of being like, this is great. There's just tons of things that we could bring up from last season, from the last show, and there's definitely a lot we want to improve on going forward. If you folks have any feedback and that sort of thing, drop it in the comments below and let us know. Anything you want to see, anything you want to hear us talk about going down the road, let us know, and we'll do the best we can to make those changes. And on top of that, just any type of feedback is always welcome. So we embrace that here, although we'd like to look at ourselves as experts on NFL, that is. And we won't waste any time with that. So season 3, once again, coming up very soon as kickoff for the 2022 NFL season. That's when our new season will begin, and we're expecting a whole lot of new things to come along with that. So hopping into the show today, some hot NFL talk that we have to get to and touch upon. We're going to start off with the first one, which was on DK Metcalf. This just came in just now. This is something that we definitely need to discuss, is how Metcalf signs a 3-year deal worth $72 million and $58.3 million guaranteed to stay with the Seattle Seahawks despite the contract issues. They managed to figure it out, and he's going to remain a Seahawk for at least the next 3 seasons.
Yeah, remaining a Seahawk indeed. I mean, I just found out this morning. My friend was quizzing me, or my roommate Chuck, on NFL single-season leaders for each team, and he said receiving yards for the Seahawks, and I didn't guess DK. I mean, I didn't know DK 1,300 yards back in 2020 was the best ever for a Seahawks receiver, but I mean, he's a beast. We can't deny it. DK Metcalf is an absolute specimen of an athlete. He's been a stud since he's walked in the NFL. Looking at his stats, I mean, 2 seasons with 900-plus yards. Then he had a season with 1,300 yards in 2020. But that season last year, 12 touchdowns, career high, and he played with Geno Smith for a third of the season. So, and a banged-up Russell Wilson who came back way earlier than he should have. So I think it's a good deal, but it's tough for me to say that any of these receivers are worth $20 million a year. I think there's only a handful of receivers who are actually worth that, but I think shout out to Christian Kirk for kind of breaking the the NFL wide receiver market. I mean, we've seen a bunch of guys getting signed this offseason to crazy deals, and Terry McLaurin, I think DJ Moore too got a big extension. There's a lot of dudes signing to big deals. Deebo Samuel's still in the mix. Cooper Kupp, big extension as well. So there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of pass catchers making money. The right era to play nowadays. But shout out to DK getting his bag straight. But is he worth $20 million a year on a rebuilding team? I don't think so, man. I don't think he is.
Yeah, and it's definitely a lot to ask for. But I mean, this was definitely a shining light for the Seahawks, especially with the way the offseason's unfolded for them, because you see Russell Wilson get sent off to Denver to play for the Broncos. And then just a couple days ago, running back Chris Carson decides to call it a career, hang up the cleats from the constant nagging from his neck injury, which was something that was definitely unfortunate. Chris Carson was a very good running back in the National Football League and for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
So for the Seahawks, this is huge, because this is a guy who, ever since he's come onto the scene here in Seattle, has not been below 900 receiving yards since the start of his career, has at least over 7 touchdowns each season. He's just guaranteed that if you get him the ball, he's going to produce. This guy's a producer as an athlete. He's only 24 years old, and this is a kid where the sky's the limit. Anything could go right for him. I mean, what I have to say about, is it worth giving him $20 million a year? I mean, I understand your point. Yeah, it may not be, because they're a rebuilding team now at this point. They don't have the franchise quarterback, because now they're going to be going between either Geno Smith or Drew Lock. We'll see who wins that QB battle over there. But for this team, they need a guarantee that if they manage to get a quarterback, because there's definitely going to be a lot of good quarterbacks coming up in this year's draft, they need to make sure that they keep a guy like him around to help produce for the future seasons. They don't want to risk losing him to many other talented organizations in the NFC that will definitely make a run for him. Because the AFC, I mean, even the AFC, but the AFC is already pretty stacked as it is. They would just rather not see him go to a rival or a different team in their conference that he's going to bring havoc to if they have to face him. So for the Seahawks, I like the deal. I think this is good. This is something that's going to guarantee that at least for the next 3 seasons, you'll have this guy. But now this means the team just needs to take the next steps to ensure he's going to continue to stay for maybe another 3 or 4 seasons to come after this contract's up.
And I mean, you kind of also got to think, you're talking about the quarterbacks a little bit. Who's going to throw this guy the ball? And if they get another quarterback in the nearby future, whether it be a draft pick in the next couple of years, or even a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, who rumors saying that he might get cut if they can get a trade partner. And Seattle's that team that's looking for a quarterback right now. So some division talks and division headlines, very interesting stuff. But if you're gonna give this guy $20 million a year, I mean, you gotta give him a good quarterback throwing the ball. Make your money's worth. Even if you got to invest in it a lot, because Drew Lock and Geno Smith, can DK Metcalf still hit 950, 1,000 yards on the cusp receiving yards with them? Yeah. Is he going to have another 1,300 yard season with those guys at quarterback? Probably not. So I think this deal, it kind of raises a lot of questions in general for the Seahawks offense and their future and kind of the trajectory that they're going right now. I mean, it's a very interesting franchise right now. Really is.
It is. But I mean, I think something that the team has to look at the end of the day, which they did, was, has this guy produced as the year's gone on? Sure, he didn't break 1,000 yards this past season, but he did break the amount of touchdowns that he had the season prior. 10, he had 12 this past season. That's something that the team will had to look at. And I think at the end of the day, even though Geno Smith was there for a little bit of time, he did prove to be an open target for him. And he actually had a game where I'm pretty sure he had 2 touchdowns in the same game from Geno. So looking at the way this player produces, he's going to produce no matter what. But I do see your point when you're saying you need a consistent quarterback like Russell Wilson coming into that system and helping give him more numbers. Because everybody knows at the end of the day, if you have a good quarterback, you're going to put up good numbers. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to put up good numbers. That's just the reality of the game. So, I mean, it kind of comes down to, will it pay off? We'll see. Because some players, when they get their money, they end up not either. Well, I'd basically just say it just doesn't work out. It can, and it can't work out. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where we have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely one of those things. And I think it's a common theme around the league now, with a bunch of young wide receivers now making an average annual value of $20+ million a season. I think it's kind of ridiculous what we're seeing in the league right now. But
for any professional athlete at this point, it's become money's.
This money's ridiculous nowadays. I mean, the Damian Lillard deal in the NBA is by far number one on that list for me. 2 years, $122 million, ridiculous stuff. But
that is insane. For 2 years, you're being guaranteed $60 million a season.
Think about it. That's like, say he plays, 75 games a year in the NBA. He's making like 900K a game,
You could literally
800K a
suck
game.
one game and you're still getting paid that.
Like it's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That's on top of endorsement deals. These guys are easily making almost $100 million a year, probably. Guys like Steph Curry easily, getting over that plateau each and every season. LeBron James, billionaire, dude. He's literally a billionaire. So,
literally owns a piece of the Boston Red Sox now.
If all these guys are going to be getting their cheddar, I guess it's fair that DK Metcalf can too for a little bit. So,
yeah. So I mean, we'll see how this works. Personally, I think the Seahawks had to get the deal done to keep a guy like him around, give some type of beacon for any type of quarterback that comes up, either in the draft or in free agency, to make their way to Seattle and try and win a championship.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that pays off as time goes on. But now another wide receiver that we have to talk about. This was a guy who, a longtime Atlanta Falcon, went to the Tennessee Titans last season. We thought we'd see him produce there. However, it just didn't work out. And finally, a team decided to take a chance on him as Julio Jones decides to sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a one-year deal worth $6 million. Has a max value of $8 million at the end of the day. Decides to go and pair up with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Tom Brady, and the Super Bowl, the 2020 Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this deal is interesting because you're talking about a 33-year-old wide receiver who hasn't been over 1,000 yards in 2 years, has struggled with injuries, but it puts him in a system that, one, is a very successful system. You have Tom Brady leading the charge along with many great other players on that offense and defense. And it's just a team that's a competitive place for him to be in. So will it work out? I mean, it's a one-year deal. So for me, I mean, hey, it's kind of like cool. But I mean, the Bucs, this is what they did last year. They did it with Antonio Brown. Didn't really pay off at the end of the day. But I mean, with this, I don't know. It's something. He's an old vet. It's tough for me to say how it's going to pay off, but he will provide some type of leverage to this offense.
Yeah, he will. I like Julio Jones. If he can stay healthy, I think he'll be a very good piece for that offense. Him and Mike Evans on the same team. I mean, two of the best receivers in the NFL over the last decade or so. I think it's going to be a really interesting pairing, but I felt like an idiot when I didn't see this coming. When I saw you sign, I was like, wow, how did I not see that coming? It was kind of it was very Mickey, man. It was very Mickey. I think not the Colts. I think the
well, there was talk that the Colts would have made a run for him, considering you have a Matt Ryan, Julio Jones reuniting moment there.
That's what was in my head. I mean, I really thought he was going to Indianapolis for a little bit, but we were all mistaken. I guess it's good that he's not in the same conference as the Patriots. But I mean, Julio Jones, like you say, he's standing up there in age, 33 years old, but first ballot Hall of Famer nonetheless. I mean, 6 straight seasons with 1,300 plus yards, 7 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Top 5 of his position for, I would say, at least 5 years. So, I think he's a Hall of Fame player. He's a beast. But in Tampa, this is going to be kind of just the absolute icing on the cake for how Mickey these guys are. Kind of just bringing in every washed-up talent. Getting Gronk out of retirement, getting AB, now getting Julio. I mean, who wouldn't want to play with Tom Brady and try to chase the ring? I don't blame any of these guys for going to Tampa. Nice city as well, but it's just pretty interesting. And Brady and Julio Jones, that's gonna be a pretty dope thing to see. Their first touchdown, they connect together if they do.
Yeah, and I mean, what I expect out of this in terms of what we see in the production of his season, I don't think we'll definitely not see him reach 1,000 yards, in my opinion. I just don't think when you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as your top 2 guys, you're going to be throwing to Julio Jones a lot. He's going to get targets, but I mean, not as much as those two. But he's just going to be there to kind of really balance them out. And I think it's probably going to be very favorable for him. He's probably going to play out wide. They'll probably put Godwin in the slot because he's more of a slot man. So they'll have Evans and Julio out wide and kind of have that go about for their their pass production all season. So, I mean, for me, yeah. Can I blame the guy for going to Tampa? No. I mean, hey, if I was a free agent and the Buccaneers were looking at me right now, I'd be like, dude, I want to catch some passes from Tom Brady. This is literally a legend, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. And like, if I'm on his team, I know I have a chance to win another Super Bowl. So
I want to win one Super Bowl at
least.
Yeah,
at least one Super Bowl. And I mean, when you look at Julio Jones's numbers throughout his career, 7 seasons with over 1,000 yards. Most of those, he was over 1,200.
Which is 1,300 for 6 straight. 6 straight. Crazy.
And it's just this is definitely a guy who deserves a chance to get into the Hall of Fame. And I'm sure a season with Tom Brady could bode well, especially if they make it to the promised land. But it's one of those things where, can he stay healthy? And that's something we've really seen as his career has gone on. His health just hasn't been maintainable for him. In 2020, only played 9 games. Last season, only played 10, as before, where he hardly even missed a game, maybe even just 1 or 2 throughout his career. So for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their number one goal with Julio Jones is to keep him healthy so he can stay on the field as much as possible and be an open target for them. And I mean, you bring up Rob Gronkowski, and like me and some of my friends were talking about it. I mean, I bring this up randomly. I kind of hope he doesn't come out of retirement. I would just think,
yeah, I don't want him to either, man. I think he's done.
Yeah,
I think he has to be done.
He has to be. Imagine I mean, hey, we said the same thing about Tom Brady, and then he pulled a fast one. Was like, I'm coming back, guys.
Yeah, bro's done. I mean, I'm glad that Brady came back a little bit, not particularly, but
yeah, I mean,
should be done for his health and stuff. But when you look at these guys, I mean, like Gronk and AB, guys they were on to Tampa. I mean, they were relatively successful. I mean, AB only played in 15 games over 2 years, but still amassed 1,000 yards in those 15 games in 2 seasons, 8 touchdowns. Rob Gronkowski hit 800 yards last year, or almost 900 yards, which was his most since I think 2017 in his final year. I mean, I think this Bucs offense is going to use Julio a lot better than the Tennessee Titans did. He didn't really play all that much with the Titans, only played in 10 games, but only 31 catches for Julio Jones in those 10 games. And if you've watched NFL football the last 10 years, you know Julio Jones deserves to be getting more targets than that. Yeah, I know it's a run-first offense, but AJ Brown was out for a few weeks, if I'm not mistaken, and Julio Jones, I think he might have been out somewhere around the same time, but even so, I mean, he really wasn't a factor in any game for the Titans, except for maybe that Buffalo Bills game on Monday Night Football early on the season. But I think we're going to be seeing maybe 6-7 touchdowns from Julio next year.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of Julio Jones Bucs jerseys maybe in the stands. I think it'll be a really fun buy. And Bucs fans should enjoy this era while they can, because when Brady leaves, they're going to be nobody's once again.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, with Julio, I think what works out best for him here once again, I mean, I briefly touched upon it. We both kind of did, is having Tom Brady. I mean, you have Tom Brady as your quarterback. It's not like Matt Ryan was good when he was in Atlanta, but towards the tail end of the time when Julio was there, and then even Matt Ryan was there, Matt Ryan just wasn't throwing the way he could before in terms of actually making big plays with this guy. And then you're looking at Ryan Tannehill. Honestly, he's proven at this point he's not a gunslinger. He's in a run-first offense, a play-action style offense for a reason. Julio's not going to see the ball too much. Here, he has a chance to make an impact, especially since this is a pass-first team when you got Tom Brady at the helm. So we could see him easily get over 800, 900 yards this season. Will he reach 1,000? That's still up in the air. We never know. But with Tom Brady, anything's possible. It's just one of those things where I think right now he's in a great place, and he just has to take in the limelight as he should.
Dude, do you remember when Julio Jones had 300 yards in a game?
Yeah.
Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, dude. Isn't that a record?
It's like 6th all time, I think, for a game.
It's just nuts.
Nuts Calvin Johnson is second that game against the Cowboys long ago.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about that. I mean, Julio's a legend. He's a beast. I'm excited to see him on the Bucks. I think this Bucks team will be fun to watch, as they usually are every year. So, shout out to Julio for getting on the team, man. The league isn't the same without Julio Jones. So, it'd be weird seeing him as a free agent.
Yeah.
Full season. So I'm glad he got a job this year.
Yeah. So hopefully it pays off for him. I'm rooting for him. We'll see what happens as he hits the sunny side of Tampa, Florida. So now moving into two other pieces of information that we want to talk about. We're going to talk about the 49ers. The Niners last season, at the end of last season, really had concerns, even through the entire season, of who they were going to start in the beginning, either Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance. They opted to go the Jimmy Garoppolo route. And even when Jimmy got hurt, Trey Lance came in and did a solid job, but they stuck with the guy until the end. Garoppolo nearly brought them to the promised land, to the Super Bowl, to the big stage. It didn't work out. And then even this offseason, they were talking like, I mean, we're going to shop Jimmy around, but we're also not really sure if Trey Lance is the guy. And then suddenly, a few days ago, they sat them both down together and told Trey Lance he's going to have the starting job this upcoming season. So it's weird right now because of their doubts. But, I mean, I like Trey Lance personally. I like what I saw out of him last season. And I think he needs a shot. He can't ride the bench forever. And Jimmy G, we've had discussions about him. People will like to say he's painfully average, but you can't really say that considering this dude went to the Super Bowl. And despite the season before, he was hurt. But even this year, battled through injury, and when he was healthy, he played great. So Jimmy G does deserve a starting job in this league. However, the Niners need to move on from him because they just need they really need youth. And this is an example of youth. And they need to figure out how to either get a team to make a deal with them, which it doesn't seem like many teams are giving them good offers that they like. So you and I were talking before the show, they might just have to part ways and cut him.
Yeah, they might have to part ways and cut him, but I have to disagree with you a little bit. I don't think I'm too sold on Trey Lance as a starting quarterback in the league. I think that the Niners had to make this move, though, however, because when you trade for a bunch of capital to draft a guy third overall, you kind of gotta play him. You kind of gotta start him eventually.
Yeah, you kind of have to start him.
This is what they have to do. But at the end of the day, I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think he's an average quarterback. I think he's above average. I think he's a good quarterback. But is he going to win Super Bowl? I don't think so. I think he had his best chance a few years ago in Super Bowl 54. I think he gets back with another team. I think the system he was in was very good. But with Trey Lance, I mean, the two games he started last year, a win and a loss. He started against the Arizona Cardinals early in the year. And he started against the Texans late in the year. They won that game. But I don't know if he's ready yet to go out and keep this Niners team afloat, keep them in playoff contention for the next year, especially in that very tough NFC West with the Cardinals and Rams. I think the Niners probably finished third in their division this year again for the second straight year, but it's a weak NFC. I mean, they can make the playoffs. They have a lot of talent. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to put Trey Lance in the best position possible to succeed, but it's his first year. He's going to be starting every game, and Shanahan did say this is his team now, and it has been his team for a while. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he's going to be a very fun player to watch, but at the end of the day, am I sold on him? I don't know. I don't think so just yet.
Yeah.
Change my mind.
Yeah, I agree. It's just one of those players where we know he has the capability of being a very good quarterback and a very successful quarterback in the NFL, but we need to see more. 2 games is not enough. It's going to take a whole season for us to really have a grade on this guy and a grasp of what he's capable of. So, I mean, for me, I definitely see a good start to his career now. You are in a weak NFC. You do have a big chance to make the playoffs. I mean, are you going to win the division? No, absolutely not. I mean, Los Angeles is literally the top team in the NFC.
I mean, they could. You can't count them out.
You can't. I mean, injuries come through at the end of the day, but we'll see. With me, the Rams have the division. And then at this point, I'm taking the Cardinals in second in the West, followed by the Niners and then the Seahawks. So for me, I mean, this team, they're going to be good. the Niners will be a pretty good team this year. They definitely have a big chance, despite, with the competition not being as strong as it's been in previous seasons. And even then, this team was very successful despite some of the lack of talent. However, I'm kind of questionable of how Deebo Samuel is going to play into the equation because he had unhappiness going on with the team. And hey, it looks like he's not going to hold out or anything or do anything, pull a fast one on this organization just yet. So, it's just going to come down to, can Trey Lance mesh well with the organization? We've seen him do it pretty solidly in his first 2 starts. However, we're going to have to see how it pays off over the course of an entire season. So am I sold on him? No, I can't say yes at all by any chance. Do I like that he's getting the nod? Absolutely. You need to start him, especially since he's a top 3 pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Trey area time is about to commence. He's a good football player. I was watching his high school highlights, and it's crazy. He's from a small town just like us in Minnesota.
No way.
Like, literally, it would be like if someone from NSHS was, like, balling so hard and went to, like, URI and just snapped. It was, like, the 3rd overall pick. Like, it's crazy. His story is crazy, so excited to see the guy Trey Lance, especially for my boy Will Reyes, big 49ers fan. Already probably wearing his Trey Lance jersey right now. So this should be a good 49ers team next year. I don't think by any chance they get back to the NFC Championship at all, but I think their ceiling is probably a divisional round matchup and a road playoff win.
Yeah, there's definitely potential. I think they'll at least sneak in the wild card. That's the way I can see it, especially since it's expanded to 3 wild card teams. Yeah. I think they have a solid shot of making. And
everyone loves the Niners and shit because everyone's all like, Trey Lance's odds to win MVP went from 200 to 1 to 60 to 1. It like split into a quarter, dude. It was crazy.
Imagine he does, though. Imagine he wins the most valuable player.
It's possible. We've seen quite a few second-year quarterbacks win MVP recently. Patrick Mahomes didn't play his first year. Lamar Jackson played like half of his first year. And Carson Wentz would have won in 2017 if he didn't get injured as a second-year quarterback. So maybe the trend comes back alive this year. And I think in a Kyle Shanahan offense where he's going to be able to do a lot of stuff but not be asked to do, too much stuff, I think, there's a chance. Maybe not this year, but maybe in a few years when he really starts to develop.
Yeah, so time, once again, it's one of those things where time will tell, and it's a player we'll probably keep updated as the season goes on. So Trey Lance taking over the starting job for the San Francisco 49ers for the 2022 NFL season, and hopefully it bodes well for him. So now to move on to the final segment of the show, Kyler Murray, about 2 weeks ago now, I think it happened the day after we had gone live on the show, like our last episode that we did on here. Kyler Murray signing a 5-year deal worth $230 million, and it's guaranteed $160 million. And this deal, it's interesting because, like we've said, before we get into the other piece of information with that contract, quarterbacks just ask for so much money, man. Like, it's ridiculous how much they're expecting at this point. They're expected now to get at least, in terms of a total deal, $250 million, and it's only going up. And the precedent started when Patrick Mahomes got a $500 million deal, which to me is ludicrous. It's a ludicrous amount of cash. We've never seen a player in our lifetime ever get that amount of money.
But if any player's getting in the league, who's it going to be? It's going to be Mahomes. But Kyler Murray, though, $160 million to win what, 2 playoff games in the next 4 years, maybe? Listen, I'm sold on Kyler Murray as a talent, as a football player.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a great career in the NFL. I really do. I think he's a shorter Lamar Jackson with a better arm.
He's like a combination of Russell Wilson and Lamar, I feel.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like a young Russell Wilson and Lamar. But Kyler Murray, though, let's look at his stats from last year. 24 touchdowns, 10 picks. Year before, 26 touchdowns, 12 picks. Rookie year, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks. He's been solid. He's been a good quarterback. He's the franchise quarterback, best quarterback they've had since Carson Palmer, but he was in his mid to late 30s at that point in his career. So it's something that Arizona Cardinals don't see a lot. is a fresh young quarterback who's going to be their guy for the foreseeable future. So 5-year, $230.5 million deal with $160 million guaranteed. So it's a lot of money, obviously. And you got to ask, does he deserve it? I think it's tough to say with these quarterbacks if they deserve this type of money, because with Kyler Murray, I mean, he's a very talented quarterback. He's probably, I think, in my opinion, the 12th best quarterback in the NFL, maybe 11th. I think 11th, actually. And all the guys above him, paydays. I mean, and some below him, too. You know, Dak Prescott, huge contract. Russell Wilson, huge contract. Lamar Jackson working on one. Herbert's going to get a huge one. Burrow will get a huge one when the time comes. And, you know, the list goes on. All these guys are going to get a lot of money. And Kyler Murray's just the next one joining that list. But like we were talking about before the show, Chet, the most interesting thing about that contract, they have to mandate my boy to watch 4 hours of film every week, 35 minutes a day of film. You'd think he'd be doing this, but I guess Kyler Murray has some Jamarcus Russell vibes to him.
Yeah, quoting it as disrespectful and a joke.
He quoted that when people were asking him about the clause, though. I think, I mean, dude, we saw him last playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams. He did not look prepared for that game.
No.
You know, through that terrible, left-handed throw in the end zone, pick six. You know, he didn't look ready for that game. And I think in a lot of situations, Kyler Murray hasn't looked ready. I think he's kind of like, my boy Bengatino made a great comparison here. He's kind of like Jason Tatum, where he's a young talent star, but he just has bad body language.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we saw in the playoff game this past January where they were down by a lot of points, at least 20. I think it was 28-0 they got down, and there was no sign of him hyping up his teammates on the sideline. Just head down on the bench. So I think he's got to be a better leader. He's got to, you know, be more poised in these situations. We saw that 2020 Cardinals team. You know, these guys were 8-6. They had to win one game to make the playoffs, and they lose two terrible games to the Niners and Rams to blow their season away. You know, it's disappointing how they've looked the last couple of years when it's mattered the most, but the future is bright. And without Kyler Murray, it's not going to get any brighter. So I think they have to do this deal. Maybe I think any type of money like that's ridiculous, but
yeah,
with the quarterback market nowadays, I can't hate on the deal. Like it's an okay deal. And shout out to Kyler Murray for getting his bag straight.
Yeah.
Straight,
yeah.
You know?
I mean, does he deserve the money? I mean, sure. In a way he does, because that's just the way the market is. And I mean, he's really he really is a valuable piece to have to your offense. I mean, a year before last year, 11 rushing touchdowns to add on top of the, 26 he threw for? Yeah. So, I mean, this is a guy who's going to be not just a quarterback, but an offensive weapon, period. This guy can take off when he needs to. He's got the arm to throw the ball deep to his deep targets like DeAndre Hopkins. And now, who am I missing? Who's the new guy they brought on? Oh, they traded for Marquise Brown.
Marquise Hollywood Brown. He's going to be a week one fantasy legend. He's going to have like 40 points.
Yep, as usual. I mean, who knows? Maybe a different team different quarterback will bring different things to him. But like you said, Duffy, I mean, in terms of the way Kyler Murray carries himself, we saw it in the postseason. It just seems like you said, it's a Jason Tatum comparison. I agree, because this guy, when you do stuff like that, you're not looking out for the team. You're only looking out for yourself. And as the quarterback, you are the team. I shouldn't say you are the team. You're the heart and soul of the team. This is the guy that needs to get into his players' heads and not their heads, but really just their souls, and really kind of just, orchestrate them to get up and keep fighting and keep trying to go and win this game, because that's all it comes down to. It's every down, every yard matters. And he knows that better than anyone else. But if he gets in his own head, he's already lost. So it's one of those things where Kyler Murray, I definitely think needs more film exposure. He needs to
tell,
watch.
Though, with the way he plays sometimes, that
he's just kind of all over the place. That's why he takes off a lot, because he's like, oh crap, the pockets collapse and I need to get out of here. And it's like, dude, settle down. Take some time to throw the ball. Like, you have the speed. And I mean, Russell Wilson, that's what made him so successful, is even when the pocket broke down, he wouldn't take off upfield unless he needed to. Kyler Murray, a lot of the time, he'll just run. He'll just start going for the yardage rather than actually looking for the guy who may get open when he's scrambling. He's got to let the play develop more. And and in that playoff game against was it the Dallas Cowboys?
The
right?
Rams. Also
the Rams. Yeah, he just looked lost. He had no idea what the heck to do to get back in that game. So
they were never in that game from the beginning.
Exactly. So. That's the point. He needs to come to these games more prepared. And to call it disrespectful and a joke, that's taking a shot at your organization that literally just handed you a 5-year extension. They didn't have to do that. They could have just let you walk. And I mean, hey, somebody would have paid you, but then would that have improved you as a player? Probably not. And it's one of those things where in this league, it's like anything else. If you want to be successful in any profession, you need to work at it. And this is a guy who clearly has an attitude towards that. And hey, any person, athlete, I don't care who you are, if you don't have that attitude, you're not going to be as successful as Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or Matt Stafford and any of these other Super Bowl quarterbacks in the past few years that have won a championship for their teams. This is where it starts, man. It starts from practice to the film room to the weight room. All those things matter at the end of the day. And if you really let one slip away, you're letting a lot slip away in terms of your success.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting too with, there were a lot of, you can tell there were a lot of issues with him and the Cardinals going back to a few months ago. Maybe it had to do with his work ethic or, this extension that they didn't have finalized then. But I remember, dude, he unfollowed the Cardinals on Instagram like 2 months ago. And it was everywhere.
Deleted all his pictures.
And so, it'll be cool to see how the dynamic works the next few years. I don't think he's a replaceable quarterback. I think that they're going to keep him the entirety of his contract. But
in terms of who he is as a player, he's one of a kind.
I think he might have been like Cam Newton, man, honestly.
He could. He very well could. But it's one of those things where he's got an ego about it. And that's a problem that a lot of athletes don't see in professional sports anymore sometimes, is having an ego about yourself can only take you so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the last 2 years, you've seen that ego kind of go into place. Kind of second half of the season collapses the last 2 years for the Cardinals. I think a lot of people forget, though. I mean, the Cardinals in December, in January last year, they went 2-3, 2-4 actually. 2-5 if you include the playoff game. They weren't good towards the end of the season. And the year before that, they choked, like I said. People forget, though, if the Cardinals beat the Seattle Seahawks at home, Week 18, they win the division. They're hosting the LA Rams in that wild card game instead of the other way around. And maybe the Cardinals have a playoff win, but didn't happen like that, unfortunately for them.
No. And this team needs to close out more altogether, and it's going to start with him. If he can really start to mature more as a quarterback and a leader, the Cardinals may have a shot in the next few years with him leading the charge. But if he doesn't get his head around or get his hands on the reins, I don't think we'll see him produce at the level we expect him to.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He's got to really just take command of that team, I feel like.
He's got to have a finger on the pulse, bottom line. That's the analogy.
Good analogy right there. I like that. Finger on the pulse. Is that what you said?
Yeah, have a finger or a hand on the pulse. It's the best way of putting it. All right. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. NFL season rapidly approaching. More news to come in as it does. I mean, Odell Beckham still has not signed with the team yet. There's been slight chirps of something potentially happening, but nothing's come to fruition just yet. I'm sure we'll see him on a team by preseason, by week 1 at least. But more coverage throughout the weeks to come. And I'm excited for some football, man. I mean,
me too.
The end of August, college starts.
It's going to make me emotional, bro.
Yeah, dude.
That red zone week 1.
Every Sunday is the countdown to NFL Sunday, and I can't wait for it.
I might cry that first week. This might be one of the best seasons ever this year. There's a lot of storylines. We're getting new stories every week.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of our more exciting off seasons.
Absolutely.
The last couple of years.
Can't wait to see how it all comes to a close. But of course, there has to be a beginning, and we're slowly approaching the start of a new chapter in the NFL. So until then, this is Chet and Duffy signing off here on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Fans Only Sports Network. We'll catch you all hopefully next week. We've been a little spotty lately, but we're going to try and keep up with any breaking news that comes up, and we'll be sure to update you as time goes on. And we're definitely going to try and launch some new socials, so give us a follow there once that is up and ready to go. But until then, this is Chet and Duffy signing off, and we will catch you all in the next one. Thank you, and as always, go Pats.
Peace. Go Pats, baby.